Chapter 22. Laney sighed as she stepped off the airplane. She was glad to be back with Tyler. The distance had been just as rough as she'd thought it would be, but the next few months worried her. Her job with the studio was over as they were taking a month-long hiatus, and when they returned, their regular girl would be back. Though they had sent her name out with references, none had called yet, so she was arriving in Fredericksburg with enough money for a month, maybe 2. Nancy had offered their spare bedroom for as long as Laney needed it, but she didn't want to start a friendship by imposing any longer than she had to. Her heart lifted, however, when she spotted Tyler. Though they had FaceTimed every evening to do their devotionals, it wasn't the same as seeing him in person. She waved and quickened her pace, jumping in his arms when she reached him. "I've missed you," he said, nuzzling her ear. His arms wrapped around her waist, and he tugged her closer to him. "Me too." She pushed back against him as desire coursed through her. "But we're in the airport. I don't care where we are or who sees us. It's been too long since I've kissed you." His lips moved from her ear to her lips, and Laney gave in. She'd missed kissing him, too. "Get a room," a woman said as she passed them, and Laney pulled back in embarrassment. The kiss had turned from innocent to passionate too quickly. Perhaps it was a good thing their wedding was in 3 months. Tyler chuckled and wrapped his arm around her waist. "Come on, let's get you settled. Aaron and Nancy are waiting." Laney followed him to the baggage claim area, and after securing her bags, she had only brought what she took to California, she followed him to his truck. "Do you realize," he asked, as he opened the passenger door for her, "that this is the first time we've been together without cameras since that day you were in the hospital? I don't know about you, but I'm relieved. I'm a little tired of being on camera all the time." Even their last few meetings with the wedding planner had been filmed. "A little something to entice the audience and keep them interested," Justin had said. But Laney was tired of enticing the audience. "I'm so relieved." He grinned at her as he started the truck. "But the cameras kept me from losing myself with you. I guess Nancy and Aaron will have to be that accountability now." Laney felt a heat crawl up her cheeks at his innuendo. She, too, had felt that desire more than once, to know him on a more intimate level, but they had both agreed to wait until marriage. "I just hope I won't be too much of a burden on Nancy and Aaron. I hate having to stay with them." He cut her off. "Nonsense. They adore you and are happy to be helping. Besides, I have no doubt you'll find a job soon." Laney hoped so. She wasn't expecting to find a makeup job, but she would take anything for now. Tyler glanced over at Laney as he drove. Though he put on a confident air, a tiny piece of him worried. What if Laney couldn't find a job in town? What if she hated what she could find? Would she want to leave and go back to the city? He'd brought his concerns to God, and he'd hashed them out with Aaron and Nancy, but that didn't make them any less real, nor did it lessen them. However, he wasn't going to share them with Laney. He knew she was struggling with her own doubts, and though he wanted to be open and honest with her, he didn't think she needed his hesitations added to her own. "Here we are," he said when he pulled up in front of Nancy and Aaron's house. He was thankful his friends had opened their doors to Laney, though not really surprised. Nancy and Aaron were like that, and they would do just about anything for Tyler. They had certainly been there for him when he decided to give up drinking and detox. The front door opened as they exited the car, and Nancy, grinning from ear to ear, hurried out to them. "You're here! I'm so glad you're here!" Tyler chuckled at his friend's exuberance. He hoped it would ease Laney's fears of being a burden. As Nancy enveloped Laney in a hug, Tyler retrieved her suitcases from the truck bed. "Thank you for letting me stay," Laney said. "I promise I won't be here too long." "Nonsense! I'm excited to have you here. It'll be like having a sister, and I've always wanted one." She flashed a wink in Tyler's direction as she led Laney into the house. Tyler sent up a quick prayer thanking God for such wonderful friends. "Mind if I join you?" Laney looked up, surprised to see Nancy in the kitchen. She thought they had gone to bed hours ago. Unable to sleep, she'd wandered in looking for some ice cream and a good place to read. "Of course, it's your kitchen. I hope it's okay I had some ice cream. I can replace it tomorrow." Nancy smiled and shook her head. "Mi casa es su casa. But you've hardly touched the ice cream. You want to talk about it?" Laney stared down at her bowl. She hadn't eaten much, just pushed it around until it became a murky liquid. "I'm worried about finding a job. I've never not had one, and now I feel like I'm depending on you and Tyler. It's a little depressing and nerve-wracking." Nancy placed a hand on her arm. "It's normal to feel like that, but it's also okay to accept help. God made us social creatures so we could help each other. We were there for Tyler when he needed us, and we're here for you now." Laney's eyes teared up at the kind words, and she dropped her gaze to her bowl. "I don't know what I did to deserve friends like you guys, but thank you." "You're welcome. And about that job, I may know of something. It probably won't pay what you're used to, but I've been looking for an assistant for my debate team. Tyler said you used to do competitions, right?" Laney nodded. She had told Tyler all about her high school trips to compete in acting and debate, but she hadn't realized he'd told Nancy. "Well," she smiled, "I happen to be the debate teacher at our local high school. We're probably smaller than your school was, but I've wanted to get the kids involved in tournaments. However, I've needed someone knowledgeable who could help coach the kids and go on trips with us." A spark of interest blossomed in Laney's chest. "You'd have to pass the background check, and you'd start as a para, which, I'm not going to lie, the pay isn't great. But it's a job. It's something you were interested in. And if you enjoy it, you could look into getting your teaching certificate and take it over." "Take it over? But isn't that your job?" Nancy smiled and leaned across the table. "It is. But I'm pregnant, and it's taken us so long to have a baby that I want to have a few years off to enjoy being a mother." "Oh my gosh, congratulations, Nancy." Laney dropped her spoon and rushed around to hug her new friend. "Thank you," Nancy said, returning the hug. "So you see, you'd be helping me out as well as yourself." "I'll do it." Laney didn't have to think about it. She'd loved competing in high school, and she knew she would enjoy it just as much now. It might be a brainy Laney thing to do, but she was okay with that. Perhaps brainy Laney wasn't so bad after all. She smiled as she thought about how in control God was. A few months ago, she'd been lonely, working a terrible job and dreaming of a man who she'd barely even talked to. Now she was surrounded by friends, about to do something she loved, and engaged to a wonderful man.